Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Rob Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And man, oh man, do we have a Saturday slate for you guys here in the world of college basketball, the hardwood. This entire week has kind of been relatively boring for college basketball because of finals week and the emphasis kind of being placed on that. And especially, when we were coming off of a Thanksgiving feast week where every single day there were games from noon until midnight. And it was just so exciting, so jam-packed. And then to dial it back every single year is just one of those, bummer things or bummer time periods in the season. But man, oh man, do they love the Saturdays regardless. And that's exactly what we're staring at here. Obviously, we've started off hot in college basketball, and I think the plan, obviously, is just to kind of continue on this path for as long as we can. And I know there's going to be 10 games that we focus on in this video. That's a lot of volume, but when you're kind of leveling it against the average bets per day for the entire week, it doesn't really drastically change from a lot of our other previous weeks, to be honest. And this might even be a lighter week when you're kind of counting it down because of how few games there were from Monday through Friday. But with all that being said, before we jump into the picks, I do want to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. And if you guys are following me on Twitter/X at RobDFB, I told you guys to go over there and follow our last Underdog entry. And man, 6-1, it hit. It didn't even feel like a sweat. And if you want to take part in this next one, we're going to have one for Saturday as well. Make sure you're going over there and signing up using promo code ROBDFB, and that'll get you guys a pretty sweet deposit match bonus at sign up. But with all that being said, y'all, I'm ready to hop into these picks. All right, first up, we are heading out to a neutral site, and I'm going to put neutral site in quotations because it's going to be Arizona taking on UCLA here in the 3 p.m. Eastern time slot. And, it's one of those things where they're labeling it a neutral site, but it's being played in Phoenix, Arizona. This is still going to be a very pro Arizona Wildcats crowd, and they're laying points in this matchup. It's kind of a weird, line for some people if they just kind of pay attention to the box score and the results in the early going. But let me tell you, the season is very young. This is still a very talented Arizona team, and although UCLA is coming off a big win against Oregon, they are still very, very beatable. And for that reason, I am totally fine backing the desperate team in basically what's a pseudo home game here. So let's take the Wildcats, laying 3 points for 3 units for our first play here on Saturday. For pick number 2, we are taking a look at a matchup here between Florida and Arizona State at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when you're looking at Florida, man, there's a lot to like. Great guard play, great size. I think they have a lot of depth, and despite what's coming out about Golden on the non-basketball front, I think he's a good head coach when it pertains to the sport. And for that reason, even though this is kind of a neutral site, quote-unquote, it's being played in Atlanta, Georgia. This is going to be a very pro Florida Gators crowd, and for that reason, I am totally fine laying the 8.5 points here for 2 units for our second bet here on Saturday. For pick number 3, I'm going to take you guys out to one of the most fun games of the entire day. It's probably on not many people's radar, but this game is going to be between Ole Miss and Southern Miss, and it's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, home of Southern Mississippi. It's a very unprecedented spot with a team like Ole Miss carrying that billing, traveling to an in-state opponent that is as small as Southern Miss. And I don't mean that to kind of demean Southern Mississippi and their program, but man, Ole Miss this year I feel like is an Elite 8, Final Four caliber type team. And going into this spot, Southern Mississippi has not looked fantastic. They actually just got rid of Andre Curbelo. But if there's any play-up spot for these guys to find that motivation, to find that one-game spark, it's 100% here. And for that reason, I'm going to take a 1-unit stab here at the spread, a full game spread of 20.5, but we're also going to take a first half money line stab on the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, and I think we could catch some lightning in a bottle with this team, especially if they come out the gates hot. So let's go ahead and make it 2 units in total, and if we win the full game spread and lose the first half spread and end up negative in the red for this game, I'm totally fine with it, but I kind of want to keep my investment low and my upside high with this one. Pick number 4, we are heading out to Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, where we have Louisville taking on the Kentucky Wildcats, and we just bet against Louisville last game out here on Wednesday against UTEP, and for good reason. UTEP almost pulled out the outright winner. Louisville has been kind of in the middle of finding themselves and dealing with some injury adversity, but what I will say is Pat Kelsey is the better head coach in this matchup. And I don't mean to say that to diminish Mark Pope and what he did at BYU and what he's actually already accomplished at Kentucky, because I think his early start to the season here is very inspiring, and it feels a lot more energized and upside heavy than it was with Cal the past couple seasons. But at the same time, I think 12.5 points is a whole lot of points to be laying against an in-state rival. That's as good as Louisville, I think, can be. So let's go ahead and take those 12.5 points here for 2 units for our 4th bet here on Saturday. Pick number 5, we are heading out to Champaign, Illinois, where we have my favorite bet of the entire day as the Tennessee Volunteers take on the Illinois Fighting Illini, and man oh man, do we have a good one here, as number 1 is traveling to unranked Illinois, and I think this Illinois team and Brad Underwood have a legitimate squad this year with a number of different guys who can kill you in a number of different ways. And on the other side, although I have been very impressed with Tennessee, and if you guys followed my off-season stuff and the interviews and shows that I went on, Tennessee was a team that I highlighted as potentially being the best team in all of college basketball throughout the entire season. But at the same time, these undefeated teams and these high-ranked teams, when they travel on the road in college basketball, it doesn't matter necessarily where they're traveling. They are going into a hostile environment in a sport, just an overall sport that has a lot of volatility and a lot of, one-off type games and excitement. And that's exactly what we have here. This is why I'm going to be taking the Fighting Illini here at getting 1.5 points. You can kind of shop around. Moneyline is also fine in this spot, but this is going to be our biggest bet of the entire season so far with the Fighting Illini, and I'm ready to put my stamp on this game. Let's go ahead and do it, and let's hope that they make and complete our fun Saturday here. Next up, we are jumping all the way to the 7 p.m. Eastern time slot, and we are taking a look at another fun game as Marquette, a top 10 team in the entire country, is traveling to unranked Dayton, Ohio, and Dayton Flyers, they are a good team this year under Anthony Grant. I think they looked really, really impressive in Maui despite collapsing late in a couple of those ball games, but they're going to be up for this one. And in the A10, you only get so many opportunities to build your resume for the NCAA tournament for that at-large type bid, and this is one of those games that you're having the opportunity. They're traveling to your building. Marquette might finish in the top 10 throughout the entire season, and for that reason, I say we take Dayton on the money line here for 4 units as we, again, hope for another upset in terms of the ranked versus unranked type of category. All right, next up, we've got another really fun rivalry-esque matchup here, and actually, there's no esque on this one. This is just a straight-up rivalry, and it's going to be taking place in Stillwater, Oklahoma, as we have Oklahoma State taking on the Oklahoma Sooners, and the Oklahoma Sooners are coming in this matchup with an undefeated billing, and in rivalry matchups, we just got done saying it, and I guess the last 2 type of slots here, 2 picks that we've done, but when you're undefeated, when you're carrying that billing, and you're traveling on the road in college basketball, you won't have it tougher than that. And Oklahoma State is getting 5.5 points in this one. We don't even need an outright winner. That is a perfect spot to take these Oklahoma State Cowboys. So let's go ahead and take those 5.5 points here for 4 units as we hope to get another upset here on Saturday. All right, for our second to last bet here on Saturday, we have another really fun matchup here between Gonzaga and Yukon. And this is in Madison Square Garden, where Yukon basically gets a home game every single time they play in this spot because so many Yukon fans show up. Now, at the same time, Yukon is a team that I want to be on the other side of for a while this season, and that's just because everybody wants to back this team and back this brand and back Hurley after the dominance they've displayed over the last 2 seasons. But when you look at Gonzaga, last Saturday, they blew a 17-point lead against Kentucky, and kind of like what we were talking about with Dayton, there's only so many opportunities to build your resume in the WCC for Gonzaga, and this is definitely one of those games that you could look back on and Yukon could win the Big East and they could finish inside the top 10, and Gonzaga would have potentially a win over that team. I say we take them to win, and not only just win by that 2.5 point margin here. So let's go ahead and take the Gonzaga Bulldogs, laying the 2.5 points for 3 units for our second to last bet here on Saturday. All right, for our final bet of the night, we are heading out to Boise, Idaho, where the Boise State Broncos are taking on St. Mary's. And no, this isn't the blue turf football, but this is a very good home advantage for the Boise State Broncos. And I'm a big proponent or backer of St. Mary's, especially once they kind of get into conference play, because they are probably going to upset Gonzaga once this year. They're going to have good games against San Francisco and whatnot as well. But when you're traveling on the road against a Boise State team that has already kind of fallen short of their expectations out the gate, and certainly need to pick it up as the season prolongs here, because they have visions of an at-large spot, they have visions of winning the conference, and so far, in the early going, they haven't looked like that type of team. But this is a great opportunity for them to reprove themselves and show up to the dance. And for that reason, I say we take the 2.5 points here for 4 units for our final play here on Saturday. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video. And if you do want to take part in everything else that we're doing, whether it's football, college basketball, even on nights where we don't have a video that goes up here on YouTube, make sure that you're following me on Twitter/X at RobDFB. And tomorrow, we're going to have at least 1, potentially 2 underdog entries. And last time out, we hit a 6-to-1 pair. It was a great feeling. And I think we have some more that are going to be coming down the pike in the next few days here as well. So make sure you're heading over there. But with all that being said, really appreciate it, guys. And as always, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.